Probably now. Just like a quick overview or just a rundown is that we are letting the people in the free Discord onto today's Zoom, and we will be posting the recording on the RCV YouTube. In these Zoom calls, what we mainly do is go through all of our executions and then kind of just go for a Q&A. So just go ahead and get started.
Cool. Thanks, Fredo. Right. Firstly, welcome everyone that has joined. Thank you very much for tuning in. So this week in general, I found it was quite solid in terms of just flow, everything respecting, etc. I think I had about 2 losses and I want to say about 6 or 7 wins. Obviously, half of these trades are on demo because I'd hit February's targets. And again, a thing I like to stress to everyone is once you hit your target, don't try and force to overachieve on those targets, because you could be potentially just jeopardizing your wins, etc., etc. It's the same thing I've been saying every single week. And so I like to stick by that rule. Once I have hit my target, whether it's on the first day of the month or if it's on, the third week of the month, the remainder afterwards is demo for me. Again, like I said, because I don't want to jeopardize anything, but I do still like to trade on the demos just so I don't lose the flow of things. I find, especially if you've hit your target on an early basis, or just say you stop trading for a few weeks, you can sometimes lose the flow, and it's not always great to do that. So that's why I just recommend, keep in touch with it and then go from there. But anyway, so this trade was on Monday, right? Monday London, which isn't a time I usually trade, but I couldn't not take this. I just thought it was kind of like really nice price action, especially for that time of day and that time of week. So I'm going to walk you through it now. It's this whole kind of thing up here. There is quite a lot of charts, so I won't try and bore you too long, but we'll go through it anyway. So kind of like coming to London, 8 o'clock, we had just price continuously trading up, mitigation, right? This kind of thing. Now, this to me, when you get this kind of like in the middle of a session, it usually just continues until a certain point. So see, we weren't in New York yet. We were, I think it was about 11, just kind of like the start of 11. Oh yeah, it'll be up here, 11:06. So I thought, okay, cool. We might have a run up until New York. So I'm going to try and capitalize off that. And that was kind of like my thought process, right? So we had a new kind of, our current range is here. And then price had obviously broken this high, which I'll show you now over here. It's not substantial, but in my opinion, it's still valid until we obviously get the break and then the continuation. That's a new range. So POI was this group of candles here. This group of candles grabbed these lows, and my stop was below this range's low here, right? So when it topped out, which was there, my stop was below this, right, the bottom of the range, just to be safe. I could have done it below the POI, but to me, it's just not it's not as, how do I say it? I'd rather just be on the safer side with that. Anyway, price traded up, traded down very nicely, just got a very quick reaction from that. In my opinion, that's the kind of like best trade to have. And upon that, obviously we grabbed this low here and then took the high out. So we had our CVOS to LG, and then price just ran. And then this kind of, these whole like next few charts are just the trade management side. So I didn't want to move my stop just yet, despite having obviously the LG in the break. Personally, for me, what I find most of the time is I prefer to move my stop once we kind of have the completion of a range. So in order for me to validate a range is complete, is you have your low, your high, higher low, and then this high is then taken, and then that is your kind of like range that's complete, right? So we had the low, the high. This is obviously a prediction of a high. This could obviously go a bit more higher before coming down, but this is just what I had drawn, and this is what I said what I wanted before moving this stop. And then basically this was my drawing, obviously anticipating this inefficiency to come and hit before price going higher. And it literally did just that, which was pretty nice. So then stop was then moved after that, right? Because what can happen is price can come down, break the low, mitigate something lower, not take this, and then it's kind of like a bigger external, right? In regards to your low, high, low, and then obviously your high over here, right? It's the same kind of thought process with this. Obviously, I didn't want to move it just yet because we could have had something like that before price goes higher, right? It's always a possibility, so I'd rather have just been safe in that instance. Okay, and then stop was moved to here, like I was speaking about. And yeah, so basically that happened, right? We had a break of this before price continued higher, as you can see here, right? There, came lower, took the low, mitigated this POI, and then took the high. Right, and then we had a CBOS, mitigation of just this group of candles. See on a higher time frame, this is very zoomed out. Strong reaction again, right? So my stop is here. Now we've completed, and I will move this stop to here once we get A, B, C, and then D, right? Exact same thing. And again, it followed the red pretty perfectly here. So that was the management side. And then straight after we had TP. So I think that was I can't remember, might have been a 1 to 3, I want to say. Yeah, 3 pips and 48 to 59. So that's 11. So it's about 2.7 off the top of my head. Maybe my maths is totally wrong there, but that's that, right? So very nice trade, like no drawdown whatsoever. And TP, and there's obviously scaling. There was scaling opportunities. Obviously, you could have scaled in here. You could have scaled at this region as well, but again, kind of coming into this like New York is not the best time to when you have like a continuation in a session like that. I don't always like to scale in too high, right? So my target was the high on the left, and as soon as we hit that, we had this, right? So it was literally a perfect TP. And then price tried to convert higher and go, but we just had bang, bang, bang. So grab this high over here, broke this low, reacted off this POI, unwillingness, LG, potential buys there. I would not buy after that though. Obviously now we're in New York, and then we have the continuation in the opposite direction. So that was like a kind of like a picture perfect trade in that instance, and they're always the best ones. You know, when you get a quick reaction from your entry, and then you get a perfect target, and then price reverses to where your SL was. So this should have been here, not there. Either way, right? So that's the first one. Cool. So this was today, and this is quite a nice trade. And on a bigger perspective, I didn't get the zoom out shot because I was about to take the trade. But basically, we had price do this, do that, and do that. So we're kind of sitting within this unwillingness bit here. Price then reacts higher after taking liquidity that was over on the left, so it would have been over here. I'll try and pull up the real chart in a minute. And then came down, mitigated this, failed to convert lower, then we broke this high. That to me is a bullish signal. It's not a definite confirmation. Having something like this breaking is a confirmation for me. So luckily what actually ended up happening was we didn't hit that entry, because maybe if we did, it could have gone the wrong way, but we missed that, right? And then we had OFD because we had the reaction of this POI and then a break. So I've basically moved my stop higher, stop at the low, entry at the top of the POI. I want to make sure I'm in. Again, this is a 1 to 2.02, I think, along those lines. And that was my entry, right? So on the M3, this region here. And my target was the local high, right? Micro entry. I think I was speaking about this in the free group. Micro entry, micro target, right? Because if you think about it, if you're buying on the M1 and you're targeting a daily high that's 200 pips up, right? And you've only done micro analysis. So you're analyzing the micro move that is about to happen, or you're anticipating the micro move that's about to happen. That more than likely doesn't always mean the macro move is going to follow suit, right? You might get the odd lucky one where you've picked the bottom of a macro point and a micro point, and this then goes all the way to the daily, but you don't want to be focusing on that. Your priority needs to be, if you're analyzing on your macro, on your micro, target your micro or your minors. That's that's the way I see things. I think it makes sense, because if you're say this is on a daily time frame, right, and each candle represented a day, okay, you're not going to go to your M1 to find a target, are you? It doesn't make any sense. So don't do the same thing the other way around, basically. Anyway, price trades down, which is nice. Usually I like a stronger move than this, but this isn't reason for me to basically close early, because obviously I do trust the fact that this is just going to continue higher, right? And we've just had that, and we're going to get our continuation higher. So I don't need to close based on this here. Sometimes it's best to just kind of keep away, set your alerts, and then go for it once your alerts hit. And the same thing here, low, high is what I wanted in order to move my stop. And then we got this, right? So maybe I was being a bit too pedantic here, but basically I'm on the M1, right? Which is a micro time frame. 30-second time frame is also micro, 15-second time frame is micro, 1 second time frame is micro, right? Within this M1 candle is a pullback over here. So we broke the high, we pulled back, hit a POI, and then ran, right? So to me, this orange kind of makes sense. And I moved my stop to the bottom of the trading range here. So what I've done here is I've cut my risk from 1% to 0.2. Or the rough estimate was about 0.22 something, right? Percent. Okay, so what this means is if price comes down, hits where I've entered, say at this region, and then reacts, I'm still going to be in the trade, right? If I just move my stop to break even because I'm afraid that I'm going to lose the trade and lose money, then I'm letting my psychology cloud my judgment here. And that's not how you want to play it. Make sure your stops are placed in a calculated way rather than in a way to just save your psyche. Okay, so this was running, and then basically what happened after was we had a break of an unsubstantial break of these highs. Very micro LG here, hold on. Grab this high, broke this low. So I thought, okay, there's a chance that price can reverse. There's a chance that this is a failed conversion higher and a potential reversal lower. So my thought process here was risking 0.25% on a hedge. So what this means is if price trades up, this, by the way, this buy entry is 1 to 2.29, right? So 2.29, 1. Now with this hedge, 0.25, I'm risking 0.25% risk. So if this fails, I walk out of the trade with 2.04%, right? And if this comes down, I lose 0.2% on the buy, but I also gain 0.25 here and then it's like whatever the remainder is on that. So I leave the trade with 0.25 and then maybe another 0.1 minus 0.2. So I'm leaving with profit, right? It's essentially a break even, but I don't want to put my stop at break even because this can come here and then go here. So I find this is a better way to manage the trade rather than just put my stop to break even, because there's always that possibility that price can come back into your entry where there's a POI, in this case it's inefficiency, before running higher, right? And in that case I would still be in the trade, and the trade where there's more risk and more return, I'm still in, and if it hits TP I win, right? That's my thought process. And then price failed to react, broke higher, moving my stop here because we, on a micro sense, grabbed this low, broke the highs, and then broke that high. So I moved my stop here. And then I also, so from here to here, then I also move my hedge TP from there to there, right? Because I don't want to be in a position where I'm getting stopped out of the trade and then price then goes higher. I'd rather just have them the same, right? Because my hedge TP is based on my buy SL. And then bang, TP. So we did this on the live trading section of Corsica. So I was kind of sending it all in as it happened. So it was quite good to see it all play out. But yeah, if you've got any questions, just write them down and then I can answer them in a bit. All right, cool. Is everyone clear? Is everyone following? Just put in the chat. All right, there we go. Sorry. Cool. So why did I take the hedge? Basically, hold on. Right, so look at this from a micro standpoint, right? A much more, not much more, but just say, let's say 15 seconds, right? Because all these wicks are candles on a lower time frame. So if you're looking at a daily wick, obviously there's going to be candles within that if you go to the five minute, right? So we're on the M1. So this move down is a low, right? On a very micro scale, that's a low. This is a high. That's a low. That's a high, right? And then we had the break of so we had the grab of the high and then the break of the low. So that is like this. Potential LG to continue lower. After grabbing this liquidity here as well. And from a perspective of externally, if you're taking from high to low, this could potentially sell down. So I wanted to, instead of put my stop to break even, hold on. Let me answer this question first, Patrick, then I'll. So instead of going to break even, I'd rather hedge my risk and risk losing 0.25% to make 2% rather than potentially not making anything at all. So I decided to hedge on this region for these factors, and hedging makes me more profit rather than if I just went to break even, right? Hopefully that makes sense. You don't take that sell in the blue OB because of the liquidity taken below. First picture on GU. I didn't sell here because, sorry, I did mention this at the start, but basically price did this, right? So this low, I'm pretty sure, is this low here. So if we had this break and we continued, and then we went higher like this, then potentially, yes, I could have looked to sell there to take it lower, but we didn't have that. We had the unwillingness there on a micro sense, the unwillingness here on a minor sense, confirmed by this, and then that's why I decided to take it higher. And then we had the disruption over here, which allowed me to enter here and go higher. Right. Good questions. Cool. Yeah, TP. Right, brilliant. Let's go on to the next chart. Right, which one shall I do? Let's do this one. Right. Okay, so over here, this was I think this was the first trade of the week. Yeah, it was. So it's actually before all of that happened on EU. Okay, so basically what happened was price traded up, traded lower after failing to convert higher. So we had high, low, then we had high, then we had this low, failing to break. Oh, that looks like it did break it, but it didn't. Oh my God. Failing to break that low, there we go. And then breaking this high. So to me, that's showing unwillingness to go lower. Coming into session, we're trading higher. Let's target for buys, right? That was my kind of thought process on this. And then entry was based on this low being broken, and then a break of this high, and then a break of this low, then a break of this high here, right? So entry was there. I'd say potentially this is quite an aggressive stop, right, in this instance, because technically we've got our low to our high here, and we could always have something like this. But this is on the M5. If I think the next page hopefully zooms in a little bit. There we go. So instead of, right, let me go back and explain what I'm talking about. So instead of, oh my God. Instead of having something like this happen, we already had that happen on the M1 here, right there. So we had low, which took that low, took the high, and then came in for entry, right? And then grabbed this low here, and then broke the high. And then you could have scaled in at this POI here. If you did buy at this SC, stops would still need to be below there, because below here isn't valid, because this could have come down and then gone higher. So that was the kind of thought process behind that one. Then the TP was, it would have been a high or a POI on the left. Yeah, M5 POI. And this was just perfect because it was that thing where it's just continuous order flow coming in. And each time price moves. And obviously once we had this trading range complete over here, so as soon as that high breaks, stops move to that. Price comes down, I make a percent. If it goes higher, obviously make whatever the TP was. And then bang, right? Again, very, very nice for Monday London. Two really good trades in my opinion. They both had kind of like the same framework, just grabbing at the low, continuing higher, mitigating the POI, continuing higher, mitigating higher, all the way up until like New York. This one's pretty straightforward. All good. I'm assuming you guys are all good. If you have any questions, just ask in between and then I'll answer them after. Cool, so this is a loss that I took. Basically what we had was high, low, which was then caused after this failed to convert higher over here, and I'd seen price push up, then push down, failing to break this low here, and then we broke this high, right? So to me, I saw that as unwillingness to go lower. To go lower over here after that broke. And then I saw price trade up, very choppy. To be honest, this was probably a mistake that I made, just not identifying that. And then price had taken this low, mitigating a bit lower on this SC, group of SCs, group of candles. And then I was waiting for price to break this POI here, right? Why? Because price pushed up, mitigated, broke structure, clear reaction, but failed to follow through. Therefore, if this breaks, OFD, right? That was the premise of the trade. Price broke, and I think, again, like one of the mistakes that I made was just the fact that price had gone a bit too high. I think if price goes a bit too high and your POI is all the way over here, then it can just kind of, pardon me, sorry, can just not validate your POI, basically. It's the easiest way to put it. I'm trying not to use super complex descriptions here. Anyway, that happened. And then price came down. It did react off the POI, but then we hit this candle here, and then it just failed to convert and then broke. And as soon as this invalidation broke, we had, here's the quick analysis of it. Transition here, this high, this low, this high. Technically should have waited for this high, but I did think this was a valid break here, CBOS OFD, but I guess this was just an instance like this before going lower, right? But as soon as the invalidation breaks, what happens? The local external low gets taken over here, right? And that's the thing that I wanted to just speak to you about. Again, you all probably know this, but obviously the three guys in here. See, your invalidation is where you put your stop most of the time, right? So if your stop is here, the reason you're doing that is because you're assuming that when your stop hits, price is going to go all the way down to whatever low it is, or in the other instance, all the way up if you're buying, right? So this stop being here stops you from losing all of that, right? Again, remember the reason for proper SLs is for two things: to not get stopped out too early and miss the trade. So if I had my stop, say, I don't know, over here, and then price ran, I would have been stopped too early and I would have missed the trade. And when it gets hit, it prevents a much bigger loss. Isn't there a new OFD short trade after you got invalidated on this one? Let me double check. What are you saying here? Reaction, OFD, trade here. So basically sell that there. Is that what you're saying? I don't know. It depends. I don't actually know what this perimeter is. And I probably wouldn't have my stop there. I'd want it there. So from there to there, I think it's about like a 1 to 1.2. I probably wouldn't have taken that. No. I like at least 1 to 1, at least 1 to 5, like absolute minimum. But I'll usually go for 1 to 2s plus, just because I think on a win rate scale, it makes sense to only do that. Because look, can you see here? It only went up to that. I mean, did it go a bit higher? I don't actually know. Yeah, I guess it did. It went up to there. But even still, there's not really, I guess you could say the inefficiency there stops potentially here if you're taking it off of that. But then if you're basing it off of this whole perimeter here, you know, it's just, it's not too tantalizing in my opinion. And I don't want to force it. In some cases you can, right? In some cases, and I'm going to go through, I think it's these lots of charts here. When you lose the trade in this instance, and there's an opposing, well, I guess you could say right here, right? This is EU. Same thing kind of happened. The invalidation was taken. We had an OFD here, right? Because price reacted off that candle. broke structure, then broke. So then we've got our range here to here. Then sell was there, right? And this premise is obviously good, which is, I think it's a 1 to 1.5 this was. But I didn't take this one. This was just a markup. No worries, Mark. So we can put the SL at the PY that broke. Sorry for this mouse, hold on. SL at the POI that broke, what? If you're entering here, you only, if this here is your POI, shouldn't your stop be here? But I guess if you're then looking at it from this perspective, you know, solidified high there, reaction, then you could put your stop here. There's more of a very micro end compared to this, but one, it didn't even reach that. This extension is called page marker, draw on web. Yes, I flicked through between that and the pen. Anyway, good questions, guys. Nice one. Right, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of charts left, and then I'll hand you over. Right. This one I didn't take. Actually, no, I did take this one. Just didn't take it on live, obviously. Basically here, right, we had, it was annoying because I missed this buy, and then the stop would have been below there. Targets would have been here. So you would have had that perimeter. I didn't manage to get in this one, unfortunately. But basically, price had obviously been trending down, pushed higher, came down, CBOS. Is that a CBOS of that as well? Yep. Took that low, took this high, came down, failed to convert lower, pushed higher, came down. Strong order flow, continuation. Sorry, I'm trying not to make it messy. And then broke this high. So we had low, high, and then again, CBOS, break of that low, turned LGC, so liquidity grab, break structure, price entry at this SC here, stops below that low, straight away, bang. And then there is a kind of like, there's a follow-up entry over here as well, which kind of had the same premise, but I didn't take this one. Yeah, that's correct. Alexander, well done. I think this one's quite self-explanatory. I don't really need to go through it. Right, so this is I think this is the highlight, because there is a loss in this and there is a win. So this was quite an interesting trade, right? So originally I was looking to buy, okay, which I had this red box here. Okay, and then I kind of looked into it a bit more, and there was just kind of like this choppy grab the low, grab the high, grab the low, grab the high, grab the low. And this looked more substantial than all the other breaks. So I assumed, okay, cool. If we've got this mess here, this is probably going to continue lower, right? So I don't want to buy here. So in that instance, what I did was I decided to try and sell it, right? So I had, seen this SC get hit, and then we'd also taken on a, if I zoom in there, break of this high, and then a break of the low. Okay, failing to react from here. This isn't a disruption, by the way, but we did fail to just react from there, right? Had this kind of movement. So I thought, okay, cool. Sell there. There's a group of lows right on the left. Could have even targeted these lows, to be fair. And we got a reaction and then a break and then a reaction. It was just giving me this whole kind of this again. So I thought, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm probably going to win this one. That's fine. But I also said, if this breaks, we've got OFD here, right? So I've moved my stop to this high. And if this does break, then I can look for buys because it makes sense. Because we've got this, right? And the buy will be supported, which we're already looking at. Okay, so sell, hit a sell over here, kept failing to make lower lows, higher low, higher low, higher low, and then we broke. So I thought, okay, cool. We've broken this. We've clearly not had any willingness to the downside after that. So I decided, okay, cool. I'm going to buy there. Price hits, reacts strongly, and there's a scaling opportunity on this candle over here. And once this low broke, I moved my stop up, and I wanted to be a bit more risk averse in this instance because we did have all of this stuff here, and we had the high and the low. So just in case price was coming up as a CBOS before going lower, then I just wanted to be a bit more conservative on that scale. Also, as well, we had bang, 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 bang. So that's just moved there. And then price came into the SC, scaling was taken over here. Then I was like very certain, kind of like trying to manifest this as well. But basically, if this if this high breaks, then we will hit TP. And then if orange happens, so trade down, break above that high, I'll move my stop below the SC. And then we had it there. And then same thing. I think this was just this. Oh yeah, so I closed the scale in at 1%, which was oh yeah, my bad. Right on there. So I basically recouped my 1% loss that I made on the sell, made it back on the scaling, and then just obviously held this one out until TP. And then it was a perfect TP. Took it, reacted, and then fell. When coming down to your original POI, hold on, this one here, would you have looked at as weak OF or unwillingness to continue lower, giving more confidence for longs? Yeah, I guess so. In that, well, there wasn't really, the weak order flow on the sell side here was a confirmation, if you like. This is where I wanted to buy from first, yeah. Right, stops below that low because it was bang, 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 right? So obviously, yes, we had weak order flow, but we also disrupted this bearish order flow here as well, right? Breaking that POI that this reacted from. So that's what confirmed my buys. And then obviously this, oh, sorry, talking about this one. My bad. When coming down to your original POI, wouldn't you have looked at as weak OF or unwillingness to continue lower, giving more confidence for longs? I don't know if I understand your question because I didn't long this for the fact that we had this transition here at the break of the high, then we had the break of the low, and we stayed below. And then we had this, and then that, right? So we had this, that, right? And that's where I wanted to sell over here. Yeah, okay, cool. Right, anyway, yeah, so we TP'd and then came lower. So it was a bit of a whirlwind. Like, at the time, I remember I sent this in the group and I was just like, "Oh, you guys got one hell of a case study." It was like a proper cool kind of thing. Because I like these type of trades because it shows that the model, I don't know, I'm still yet to find the word for it, but I think the word is interchangeable. What that means is if your stop hits, you're probably going to see the opposite side TP most of the time. If your stop is correct, obviously, and you're actually doing it right, then you're going to see the opposite side TP, just like that GU loss I showed you. Dynamic, right? Okay. Not in all cases, but I think it does happen quite a lot. But then there's also a caveat to that in the fact that if you're sold on that idea of how dynamic the system is, it could cause you to force trade. So if you hit SL, for example, and if you're relatively inexperienced in this style, which a lot of you in this call probably are, if you're from the free group, then you're going to be thinking, okay, if my SL hits, then surely I can buy, or vice versa. Don't think like that. Just focus on actually winning the trade and getting the bias right. And once you get a bit more experience, then obviously you can look to kind of diversify into that realm. But a lot of the time, it does just happen based on just the simple rules that I've found anyway. But yeah, that was that. What was that? 10 chart case study. Pretty big. Okay, cool. So this was it was yesterday, right? So we had high. I've got this thing here. Low, high, low, failed to break, convert lower. Mitigated this region and then continue higher and breaking this high. What was quite interesting about this too as well was we had these lows grabbed, this high being broken, and then a push down, push higher, push down. So we just have this kind of continuation on this scale here, right? And this, could have been, I can understand why some people potentially would have wanted to sell, because you've got your high and your low, and then you've got your CBOS. So on, say, the 15-minute, this would look like this, right? Rather than this, which is what it does look like on the M1. So I understand from that perspective. But again, I'd just rather see this break and go lower and not try and guess that this is going to continue down. So that was my thought process behind the longs. And obviously we did see that break. And I thought, okay, cool, nice. We've got a decent POI here. I didn't get into this one. I wanted more confirmation, which was the break of that high. So that was my waiting period. Should have been there. Stops below here as if this breaks as OFD. And what that means is if this does come down, right, because we had the reaction off this candle, if that does come down, we're probably going to see price go lower. So my stop is stopping me from losing all that much more potentially, right? Anyway, price came down and we literally missed the SL by, I want to say, about half a pip. If you're adding spread to your stops, then you'd be definitely fine. If you're not adding spread to your stops, you might have had a tricky time here. So just always remember to do that. And then, yeah, we basically broke this low and then continued higher, mitigated lower on that POI, and then went higher. Right, if I move my stop to break even, because there's no actual reason here to move the stop at all, let alone a break even. Even if I moved it there was no reason, because we just pushed up and then we came down. There was no completion of a new high. As you can see here as well, we even failed to make that. Where am I going with this? Sorry. Yeah, anyway, so we broke this POI And in my opinion, that should just warrant a TP. And basically, if A, B, C, D occurs, then obviously can move my stop. And then it just kind of happened straight away. So I didn't even need to move the stop. And then TP was perfect as well. Bang on that high. Again, if I was targeting silly numbers when I'm trading on the M1, doesn't make sense. So just remember to keep that calculated. All right. Cool. One more. Right, we've got EU, which also happened today. Break of this low, break of this high, micro range here. From this perspective, we have high, low, high, unwillingness, break of this, right? But I wanted to wait for the break of this SC just so I can get the OF and the unwillingness as well. And then I also wanted to wait for that to break if I wanted to look for sells, because you've got your solidified point there. As you can see, it grabbed the liquidity, new high. If we took that, then there's a potential for a sell there. So it's literally, in this instance, there's no kind of solidified point. But either one would give me sell or buy. Sorry if you can hear the sirens in the background. They're really fucking annoying. Cool. Yeah, and I mentioned as well, like sells are ideal here. But, you know, I'm not going to sell if it doesn't make sense. Because we failed to obviously convert higher on this perspective. So that's why I thought sales obviously made sense. And we also took this low as well, but unsubstantially. Bang, 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 conversion. Right, there we go. And then we got this double OFD here. This is on the 2 minute. That's the 1 minute. So this is this candle as well here, right? Which both broke. And then entry was here. Now, what I managed to do on execution is see that there was an M1 candle here. So I managed to enter on that instead of here. And we actually did miss the entry. But I did enter on this one. Sorry, I'm just going to let the siren pass. There you go. Okay, cool. Scaling opportunity here on this candle. And then just TP straight after. So it was quite a quick one, but I thought it was good. Worth showing, and it was like today's price action in general was quite good. And yeah, that's it on my end. If anybody has any questions, if anybody's still following, that was very long, but there was a lot of charts. It was about 50 minutes. Give you a couple minutes, and then Fredo can start his piece. Everyone all good?
Yeah, I guess no questions. Cool. I'm going to make you host in case anybody joins in.
Cool.
Are you still sharing?
Stop sharing.
Cool. Can everybody see my screen? Perfect. Right. Good. Cool. So like we said before, I'm gonna do the same thing as Alex, go through my executions. I almost had a perfect week. I was actually um a bit sad about that this morning. I woke up very early today for whatever reason. And I decided, hey, let me look at the charts. Thought I saw a setup on AU and took a loss on there. If it wasn't for that, I would have probably kept the perfect week. But go ahead and get started. February 27th. Cool. So first trade of the week, Euro USD on the 27th. That was Tuesday, I believe. Tuesday. So first execution here, very simple. I'm more so looking at a high-low pullback continuation. There is no essential POI here intact or what that we are playing of outside of potentially final buy to sell move, which the final buy to sell move was here. Right, that's the only buy to sell move in play. But my execution wasn't based on that. My execution was based on the internal structure, which color we're going from high, low into high. Sorry, we know that order flow is still intact, but once we see this POI give a reaction, this gives me an inclination that this is going to be unwillingness toward the upside, meaning if we're not going up, then we're going to come down. So because of that break, I was able to justify a short-term bearish move, and based on that analysis, this was my result. A bit early, and I will say I did not use the true invalidation point that I should have used. My true invalidation point should have been here, but I put my invalidation point here because I know that based on the reaction that was given, right, if this POI is to then come in and break, then we have OFD to the upside, meaning I'm no longer leaning towards sells. So right, I ended up putting my SL right above the POI, and luckily for me, it ended up working out. There was actually no true conservative entry if outside of the micro break that I shown y'all here, because right after we got the final liquidation of relative equal highs, came and broke structure, there was no true entry here. And this actually ended up melting, I believe, way beyond our expectation. But I will explain why my TP here right? So the full analysis here, right? I was leaning towards sells because of a potential transition that was in play. This transition created a new bearish structural range, right? Because obviously previously we have been bullish, but we have an unsubstantial new high, and then we have the transition coming into creating a bearish structural range. So I was aiming to continue based on that. And if I would have held on, this actually ended up dying for way longer than that. But because this was bullish previously, I know that the break here, although internally this would now be bearish, externally that's just a CBOS, and we could be looking at the overall low high retracement, and that potential play was validated based on the point of interest given and the reaction shown. So I don't know if once we come into this POI, we will get a full bullish conversion and this will continue higher. That's why my TP was based on that. And either way, it was still 3 pip stop and about 12 pip, or yeah, let's say about an 11 pip-ish TP. So not too bad for a scalp trade. So I could have probably held this longer, like I said, but right, based on the POI, we have been given a reaction, but this did end up failing. But in all cases, that won't always happen. So I have to make sure that I, get my money out as fast as possible or as soon as possible. Next one, this was Euro USD. Oh, I didn't have my before after on here. I was still I'm still been kind of sick this week, so that's where you're gonna see that most of my executions were from my iPad. But this was a structural disruption that I took. I took this on EU and then AU. I'll show you guys right after this. But in terms of the trade, I was looking for potentially trading a structural disruption to the upside. And why is it structural disruption? Because we have been previously bearish, right? We have a CBOS, which confirms the low, right? So that means that internally, this is the pullback. This is now the pullback high because it's solidified with the continuation break of structure here. So I know that if this is broken, then we have structural disruption to the upside, right? So the solidified high or the solidified pullback high, right, gave us the internal break. Internally, you can see that we have a bearish order flow. That bearish order flow is not disrupted, but we do have an internal CBOS here. But I cannot sell just yet from here because this low is now considered unwillingness to this low because of the internal break. So right now, I'm not technically bearish, but I'm not bullish yet either. I am only bullish up until this breaks. Why? Because once this breaks, then I know that my pullback high, right, let's say X high is over here, low, the pullback high is confirmed. Once that is broken, then we have structural disruption to the upside. And my position was based on the inefficiency fill here, right, and the solidified low here. So I put my SL at the solidified low, not the overall low, because I know that if we break this right from here, then we now have a potential LG continuation, and I would lean towards more of styles here. So my entry was based on the inefficiency fill, my stop was based on the solidified point, and I'm targeting the previous external low, which is I believe a H1 to H4 low, and that hit perfectly. All right, I moved my stop after the immediate structure break here. Why? Because we had a CBOS, we had a tap into the POI, and then we broke structure, meaning this is now a solidified point. So I'm moving my SL from here to here, minimizing my risk by about 90%. And then from here, once you create the new structural range, I'm not going to move my SL immediately. Why? Because there could still be a CBOS as it occurred here, and it could then go into the potential target. So once this low here is broken, my SL is still here, right? But once this is broken and we have a reaction into the upside, and I note that there is a bearish POI here, okay, I'm going to move my SL here because if we are to break this low based on this POI, or you could even say this POI here, then I know that if this breaks, the reaction is confirmed, meaning I no longer want to be bullish, right? And it would more so lean me towards the bearish sense. So I move my invalidation point here, and luckily we came to mitigate whatever POI was here and then hit target. So that was kind of a great management, if I do say so myself. Next is my AU scenario on the same day. I believe this was Wednesday. This one very, very choppy. But this is why I continuously stress continuations over reversals always, right? We are bearish. We are bearish. So unless I have disruption of any kind towards the upside, I am not going to lean towards any type of buy scenario, even if we're quote unquote selling a discount. Why? Because I want to make sure that I'm always continuing trend, because none of us here influence price. So I'm just going to take what I'm given and try to follow that direction, right? I don't need to start a trend. I just need to continue the trend. So when it comes to finding this scenario, right, obviously I know that we have continuation break of structure, meaning this is now a solidified low, and then we have a pullback high solidified here, right? And once this high is solidified, we then are aiming for a previous low that is then given unwillingness based on the reaction of this POI. So from here, we have a confirmed reaction. So we failed to break the low, right? And then we came to challenge the high, right? The challenge of the high came from this low into this high, right? But that is not going to make me bullish, right? And this is also just the beginning of the New York session. Why? Because we did not substantially break it. A lot of people go with the whole if X candle breaks or it breaks and the candle closure is above the high, then they kind of play based on that. I don't like playing based on that, because on M5 it could be that the body closed above the high, but if we go to like M6, M7, it's nothing like that. So I kind of don't like to rely on a rule like that. I rely more on distance, right? I know that this high unsubstantially broke a previous high here. And from here, we came on to challenge a low. So we don't have a full confirmed LG, but I am not going to be bullish because this looks like a sweep. So once a sweep here occurs, and from there we come to break, right, the previous low, and that confirms an LG, right, then, right, this entire POI is the reason why I can lean towards a bearish sense, right, with my SL at the invalidation here, because we failed to break the high and we fully broke through lows. So very choppy, but I could still read the price action. So the trade scenario is based on a confirmed liquidity grab, right? But inside of the confirmed liquidity grab, we have a bearish structural range. So the bearish structural range gives us a point of interest, and that point of interest gives me to my TP. And as I was managing this, right, although it was a big headache, right, I can only move my SL once we have structural ranges intact or newly formed structural ranges intact. So I know that my structure broke here for the first time, right? When we are moving here, I am not moving my SL here because we have not broken the low. Why? Because I know that if this low is to not break the previous low, we could probably still continue up. And who's to say we don't tap this POI given here, right? So I don't know if that can happen or not. So I wait for full structural ranges to occur. Structural range is occurred here, right? So once you break through here, what high created this low, right? I'm going to say this one. So I can now move my invalidation here, which means that my risk is now at about 10% of the original risk. And from there, you can see that there is bearish order flow. That then led us to break here. So my invalidation is here. Why? Because then if we come in and break, right, this high after we've given the bearish reaction, then that is now bullish OFD, and I can now lean towards the upside, but that did not happen, right? So invalidation moved here, right? And then as this continues lower, right, I noted that price was unwilling to continue higher from here. So once it gets to when it gets very close to my TP, I don't like to wait for the whole invalidation to be broken. I kind of want to trail the stop in the internal structure as well. That's why I have TS, my trailing stop, here, because this is a solidified point. This high came into these next lows. So I know that if this breaks and we're this close to my POI, I mean to my TP, sorry, then this could probably start to give me something that is unfavorable. And I've seen this happen to me over the years countless times. So that's kind of why I've added that rule over time. But nonetheless, TP was hit. And this went on a little bit lower, but honestly, not my ideal scenario, right? It was a winner, but not my ideal scenario, but that's why we manage it accordingly. Next one. Next one was, okay, the EUFD that I showed yesterday, the one that I made a case study on YouTube over. I don't know if you guys saw this, but I put the before after on X, on Twitter. And essentially the main reason for the scenario, I know that I am bullish internally here, but right, like I told you guys, I don't really look for a quote unquote reversal unless I have some type of disruption. So the disruption was given to me based on this POI and the CVOS. Once that occurs and we break through the POI, then right, I could have taken my sell here. I could have taken my sell here. What do you mean? What do you mean? I thought my laptop was dying. Oh, no. This is my iPad. No. Yeah, my iPad died right after I took the screenshot. But anyways, I could have taken my sell initially from the OFD, but I didn't see it until I saw this engulfing candle. So once I saw the engulfing candle, I was like, okay, I have to be quick. So I took my position based on the inefficiency fill given here, and I obviously have to put my SL at the invalidation, which is here. right? Obviously, if you want to be conservative, you can put it there, but I know that if price is to, after we have given the engulfing, if price from here is to come up here, then I now have disruption in the opposite direction and I can favor upside. That's why I keep that invalidation right as tight as possible, but as realistic as possible as well. And you guys know the result of this one. Very easy, quick TP about, this was about, I want to say this is M1. 10 minutes, about a 1 to 3 in 10 minutes. I thought that was solid. But I hope you guys get understand this scenario here. Just pretty much a textbook OFD. And that happened today as well in I think on AU. We'll come back to that. But on to the next one. This was today's scenario, which was the EU continuation based on a potential LGC. So as you all know, EU has been trending downward intraday from the intraday POV for the past week or so, pretty much since last week. So I justified this scenario with an LGC, but the LGC is not the only reason I'm going to take this trade, because I consider this here to be a high risk sell. Why do I consider this to be a high risk sell? Because even if this is an LG present, then I know that there's still a bullish structural range intact, right? And there's still some bullish order flow intact. So I need an internal reaction in order to justify the bearish scenario. And that came here after the internal break based on XPOI. So once we have this break, I know this is a solidified high, so I can put my invalidation here, and I'm taking it based on the inefficiency fill present coming into my TP. And this one also, very, very good trade, right? Instantly melted. There's OFD on this one too, no? No, I don't see OFD on here. Don't see OFD. And the analysis, I believe I posted it here. Yep. This was the post-trade analysis, right? Once again, we have CBOS, that continued lower, but we have a CBOS here, and then a confirmed LG. Once the LG comes into play, right? Can anybody tell me why this is highlighted? Why this is a point of interest? Sorry. Anybody tell me why this is a reference point? Why that zone is important? SC, yes, exactly. And a refinement I've made over the past, I would say, 6 to 12 months is I've been incorporating a lot of zones as SCs and not just candles, just because I do want to avoid over refinement. So the two important rules of an SC are: one, it can take liquidity, and two, you have a semi-violent to violent move in the opposite direction, right? The third rule was the body to wick ratio, but if we're using zones, that rule doesn't really apply. So I'm more so focusing on zones, on buy to sell zones, right? Because I know there's, rather than trying to over refine, right, and say we're going to come here, I just want to be right in general. I don't want to be perfect. And that perfection can lead to just unnecessary losses, and I just don't want that. So I'm looking at the entire buy to sell move. So the buy to sell move is my point of interest, but like I said, this is a high risk sell because we're still looking at a bullish potential structural range, and potential bullish order flow giving us a move to the upside. So as of now, this is all bullish, and that converts once we break through here, right? Because the LG is confirmed here, but the full internal structural range is broken here. So then my reference point is here. Once again, just like said POI here, right? You can see there's a solidified low. This is the final buy to sell move, and then we came to mitigate the buy to sell move, and that went for instant TP, hit target. Then news came in and gave the opposite direction. So thought that was a very good scenario as well. And then we're coming into my loss. Yeah, this is a loss I took earlier today too. This is a bit frustrating because I am trading before my trading hours. I just said, you know what, fuck it, let's see what can happen. But I was mainly looking for a potential continuation. I was looking at the continuation based on the buy to sell zone shown here. And you guys can see that I drew the line for that too. And after that, we had an LG, not to mention an unsubstantial new high. And then we had this give us a failure. So I thought because of the potential unwillingness and the momentum to the downside, this could have given me a reaction. And it wanted to. It wanted to give me the reaction. It just wasn't the right timing. And I'll give you guys the review after this. But what I really should have waited for is for this to break. Why? Because internally we are still bullish, right? Low into high, low to high, right? We do have unwillingness, but the structural range is still intact, right? And the order flow is still in the discount, right? So the discount gives you buy volume into the upside from low into high. So this doesn't convert until right the beginning of session, which is right here. Actually, no, it happened before. Sorry. The transition doesn't occur right low into high, low into high, right low solidified into unwillingness that breaks. Sorry, and you can see that there is a potential move here with the invalidation at the high. Then that's when the transition occurred. So I was just a bit early. Or if I, instead of just trying to just discard the timing part as a whole, I could have just used the entire POI, and that's what I did right here, right? Rather than bothering, like a lot of people find the whole internal transition to be very difficult to find. Be like, okay, if that's not your if that's not something that you understand, or you feel like you aren't going to be good at, then just focus on the internal, or I mean the external, sorry, focus on the entire move, right? So we can see the final buy to sell move, then we can see the mitigation of the buy to sell move here and here. Invalidation, I mean SL at invalidation, right? That TP was smashed, and that's a 1 to 2 to 5, right? Where you can set a limit and it'll work out, right? You don't need to be very proficient with the internal analysis if you can just get the direction right externally. So just some food for thought. But yeah, other than that, I think that's pretty much all I got for today. I tried to not take up too much of your time. I saw somebody buy here. Thought this was very good. Um, but yeah, other than that, does anybody have any questions? Anything you guys want to go over? If not, we can wrap this up soon. Even a time frame setup, it's a candle too, so VV valid. Exactly. Like using zones rather than candles could be a bit more efficient, because if you're using a zone, then inherently you're using an external POI. Because if it was an internal POI, or based on that time frame, then it wouldn't be a zone, it would just be a candle. But if it's a zone, then you're focusing on an external move. So if you're focusing on an external move, then you can focus on an external target as well. You know, and you could. I don't answer broker questions, bro. Sorry, I don't do that. Especially because in the U.S., you know the whole mess that's going on. I don't recommend brokers. Very hard to find anything reliable right now, because we're either stuck with using regulated brokers, but we know the conditions are really bad, or we can trade unregulated brokers where one day our money can just poof disappear, or three, we can go to the prop firm route, but prop firms are inherently built not to help the trader but to profit off of them. So these guys can reject a payout, or reject any type of refund if they really wanted to. So it's a very tough spot right now. You can send me a chart if you have a chart ready. I don't just go and pick a price and chart. I mean, pick a point in price. If you have a chart, you can show it, but I don't trade London. Well, I'll give you guys maybe 5-10 minutes. If there's no questions, then we can go ahead and wrap this up. No, you can send, like I said, you can send me a chart. I won't. Two things I don't do on Zooms. One, I don't just, you don't tell me to just say, hey, go here and tell me what you see here. No, I don't do that. And two, I don't validate setups on here. If you have a case study to show me, we can see where you're going wrong. We can see where you're going right, because I think that's the number one thing when it comes to teaching. Um, just something I've kind of thought of over the past couple of months too is, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what I can do. It more so matters what I can do for you. And what can I do for you? I can give you proper reviews. I can give you my honest feedback and see how I can help you from a technical, fundamental, or psychological aspect. So I don't just go and validate setups, and I don't you don't tell me to just go look at X price and review this. No, I don't do that. You can show me a case study, you can show me a chart, show me what you're doing, and we can go from there. Yep, you can send it in CSS as well. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this. I'm kind of hoping this still sells off. Same with AU. I want to see the daily completely fulfill itself. But yeah, any chart work, send it in the chat. If not, we can wrap this up. We'll give you guys 2 more minutes. If I get no charts, we'll end it here. You have to put the chart in. Nope, you have to put the chart in the chat, bro. Chart in the chat. I'm not opening Discord now. Would you consider momentum towards your POI? It depends on the scenario. It's 100% depends on the scenario. I would say the single most important thing, though, I would say, is setting a proper invalidation. I think that'll be the edge for many of you. You can set a good SL, doesn't matter the size, but if you can set a very good invalidation point, then you should be fine as long as you're correct directionally. And send JPEG files. Base. I don't agree with it solely because this is bearish. But I do like that there is an internal move here. There is no disruption. There's no model though. because there's no model, I wouldn't buy here yet. So I think this is very aggressive move. I feel like you're picking a low here. Yeah, but either I would say, even if this works out, I would just say that for the most part, this is aggressive as of where the entry is. See, like for example, I wouldn't have bought right until right I saw this LG. Could have maybe bought here, but more so once we took this high out and we took structure, right, then this here is an entire POI, and that first target would have been met, right? But as you can see, these are still reversal trades. This is bearish, bro. This is bearish. Why are we not looking for a bearish scenario? For example, CBOS, CBOS, right? I could argue that I have an LGC here and I'm taking a sell to aim for the previous low, or because there is a bullish break of structure, you can aim for a previous bullish POI. So this continuation would have worked. Fine. Second continuation, right? I know that after here, order flow is technically bullish. So I could just wait for disruption to occur. The disruption, you can even see that there is a mitigation here. The reaction is confirmed. So if I was to sell here, right, these are considered high risk because technically order flow is to the upside, even if all of structure is still, all of this is still bearish. So these are still high risk sells here, right? But once we see the disruption, okay, now we have an external LGC. So you can see that based on order flow, you have one mitigation, two mitigation, and depending on how you enter, you could have gone here and aimed for a previous low, right? Or you could have waited for the reaction, right? Potentially taking something here, right? And this, right, would have been a loss, but it's still a continuation. But there's not enough information on here. There's just M1 here. I don't know what's going on externally. And two, I would say that this is still looking bearish. So I would still look for the continuations because in the long run, those are going to be more likely to be winners. Yep. So I would just say this is 100% a reversal trade. Very aggressive reversal. And I'm confused on where this target is. I don't know where this target is that you're giving. I don't know what you're looking at. Internally, this is not enough information. I would need to see the whole thing to see what you were saying. Because let me see, when was this? March 1st. This is today. Where was that here? Yeah, very, very choppy. Super, super choppy. So I'm assuming you were buying a low, high, retracement, internal transition, aiming for the high, I'm assuming? Oh, sorry, wrong area. Okay, so this is the area you bought in right here. So I would not be bullish here at all if I'm being honest, at least in the area that you gave me. If we're going solely off of M1, okay, cool. There is a CBOS, right? There is a potential disruption here, right, which justifies a potential buy here, right? But that target was met. And then from here, this high became solidified after we broke here. And now this is unwillingness on the external high. So I cannot be bullish. It does not make sense to be bullish until I have a transition, which would be over here. But yeah, I would say CBOS. I would say order flow is here, but I cannot justify a potential move, right? Unless I'm being aggressive, CBOS internally. I'm looking for the order flow to be given, whether it's 50% efficiency or an external candle. And you can aim for here. Let me see what. Okay, cool. Yeah, but overall still counter trend. Still counter trend. So I'm assuming you were aiming for this high. Can't see delta buy move. Target was. I guess from a scalp sense, I wouldn't 100% disagree. I just don't like how the external is bearish. That's why I also try to favor the sells because of the external. Cool, but any more questions, guys, or should we wrap it up here? Yeah, always find excuses to follow trend. Always. Because more than likely they will work out. More than likely, I can't give a percent. It's just impossible to give a percent. But more than likely, it will continue. And if you're looking for a potential reversal, then more than likely there always has to be some kind of disruption in play. No, it does not, bro. Nothing here is bullish. Nothing. Not until the news move. Nothing was bullish. Before the news move, this was news. Everything was bearish. Everything. Everything. Even the internal was bearish, bro. Everything was bearish. Nothing is bullish. Cool, but any last questions, guys? Any final comments? I don't mind continuing. I'm not in a rush or anything, but if you guys have more questions, we can get through them. If not, we can wrap it up. guess we could wrap it up here. Appreciate you guys hopping on. I'm going to upload this sometime soon. But yeah, this is probably a one-off as well. I'm not going to be doing this often. Just Alex gave me the idea and I said, you know what, whatever. But
You're welcome.
thanks. But yeah, if we ever do another Zoom, it'll probably be completely separate. I probably will not add people into the weekly Endura Zooms. But I guess it's just like a bit of a taste as to what you will see with the premium group. We do these every week. We have been averaging well over an hour, sometimes 2 hours. So yeah, just know that this time slot is 100% dedicated into these Zooms. So hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.